Universal Studios Florida is approaching 35 years of age, and throughout that duration, there is only one ride that has been in operation throughout that entire time period. That ride being E.T. Adventure, the only ride from opening day that is still at the park today. A ride that is based on a movie that came out over 40 years ago and has not had any sequels or spin-offs or remakes with the exception of, I guess, that one Xfinity holiday commercial, and is only rumored to still be at the park today simply because Universal's greatest creative partner, Steven Spielberg, demands that it stays there lest he cuts off all contact with Universal as a studio. Now, though this could very well just be an old wives' tale, the reason why this legend persists is because E.T., for really all of recent history, has been one of the least popular attractions at Universal Studios Florida. Sure, among the Universal core fan base, the dedicated fans, the diehard fans, of course, by and large, they love E.T., but across the general public, this ride is one of the lowest wait time rides, historically speaking, at Universal Studios Florida. Sure, for the first decade of operation, when E.T. was like the only ride that operated properly, it was one of the most popular rides. But now that E.T. is over 40 years old, it tends to be one of the least popular attractions in the park. That is, until today. In a shocking turn of events, E.T. in the year 2024, almost 35 years after it first debuted at the park, has managed to pull off its most popular year in decades. No longer being a bottom performer at the park and one of the least popular attractions, but instead on many days being one of the most popular attractions at the park. I mean, how is this even possible? This cannot be true. I have to be lying through my teeth right now because E.T., again, based on a super old movie that becomes less and less relevant year after year. Yes, I love E.T. as a film. I'm sure many of you watching do, but let's be honest, younger and newer audiences are becoming less and less familiar with E.T. as time goes on. Plus, as time goes on, this older attraction is going to continue to be outpaced and outclassed by newer Universal creations. So inevitably, one would expect that the ride as a whole will become less relevant and less popular as time goes on. That's just simple math. And yet, here's E.T. pulling a rabbit out the hat saying, "I'm not dead quite yet." Don't believe me? Let's take a look at the numbers, folks. From 2019 through 2022, of course, this was kind of a up and down time period for Universal with COVID and all that stuff going on. But 2019 and 2022 were the two highest attendance years in Universal's history, period. And in both of those years, E.T. Adventure posted an average wait time of 25 minutes. Mind you, this was well below the average wait time across the entire park at Universal Studios Florida. Universal Studios Florida in 2022 posted an average wait time of 35 minutes across the board, 10 minutes more than what E.T. had, proving that it was one of the lesser popular attractions at the park. And here's the thing too, E.T. does not have exceptional capacity. The capacity is good, but it's nothing special. So if you're gonna go ahead and make the argument that E.T. has a lower wait time because its capacity is so good, therefore it's churning through guests so quickly that it can have a lower wait time, not necessarily the case. E.T.'s capacity is not anything special. And to give you a little more context here, E.T.'s hourly capacity is 1,500 riders an hour. Compare this to a ride that tends to get higher wait times than E.T. and Revenge of the Mummy. That ride has 2,000 riders per hour in its capacity. So yeah, that kind of tells you everything you need to know as far as what this wait time really means. Now, in 2023, things changed pretty drastically at Universal Studios Florida. Attendance dropped by over 9% at the park, which ultimately led to wait times at the park dropping by 2 minutes on average. However, interestingly, E.T. showed resilience in this year. Despite less guests in the park, despite wait times dropping across the park, E.T. not only maintained its wait time, it actually increased its wait time by 1 minute to 26. Certainly noteworthy and maybe even quite impressive for E.T. that it was able to do this in 2023, but does it really mean that much? I mean, after all, E.T. is still an underperformer at the park. It still is one of the lower attended rides. It still is one of the lesser popular attractions, just simply based on the disparity between the average wait time and where E.T. is posted. But this, folks, was really just a sneak peek of what was to come, because in 2024 was when E.T. would really blow the roof off the place and blow people's minds with just how popular it would become. Now, we don't have the official attendance numbers for 2024 yet. Those will come around mid-year. But what we do know is, given the fact that attendance dropped in 2023, we expect that it will drop again in 2024, because the whole reason why people are skipping out on Universal in 2023 and in 2024 is because they know Epic Universe is opening in 2025. So a lot of people are choosing to hold off on their Universal trips until that park opens. Thus, the drop in attendance in 2023 and an expected continued drop in attendance in 2024. And the wait times reflect this, as the average wait time went from 33 minutes in 2023 down to just 30 minutes flat in 2024, showing that maybe we might have even saw a larger drop in attendance than we saw from 2022 to 2023. So given this drop, it would be pretty impressive even if ET was able to maintain its wait time year over year. But folks, it didn't just maintain, it grew its wait time from 26 minutes to 30 minutes flat, making it an average ride at Universal Studios Florida as opposed to a below average ride. And keep in mind, it did this in a year when quite literally every other ride at Universal Studios Florida saw lower wait times year over year, because there were less people in the park. There were less people in the park, and their wait times were going down everywhere else, and yet somehow more people turned out to ET in 2024 despite that. I mean, that's insane. This isn't just the case of ET getting more popular in a year when Universal Studios Florida saw more people at the park, or the whole park as a whole was more popular. No. ET is getting more popular while the rest of the park is getting less popular. It is literally stealing attendance and stealing attention away from other attractions. That is how popular this ride has all of a sudden become. And listen to this, folks. Escape from Gringotts, the most popular ride in the park, went from a 53-minute wait to 47. Rip Ride Rocket went from 37 to 32. Transformers went from 39 to 36. And yet here's older, less technologically advanced, and less relevant E.T. somehow gaining attendance in this year. Now you may be saying to yourself, hold up, this doesn't make sense. There's no way that E.T. became more popular in this year. There has to be something behind the numbers that explains it. We know that E.T. doesn't have high capacity. Is it possible that it has low capacity? And maybe it's the low capacity that's overinflating the wait time because they just can't get through guests quickly enough. Well, not really. I mean, E.T. does have more capacity than Escape from Gringotts, which is kind of crazy to think, but yeah, it does. So yeah, E.T. doesn't have crazy high capacity, but it also doesn't have low capacity either. So that's not really the answer here. Also, you might be saying, well, maybe the ride had a lot of downtime. Maybe it was delayed a lot. Maybe it broke down a lot. And maybe that just backed up the line and made the wait time longer artificially. Not quite. E.T. actually, despite being 35 years old, is extremely reliable. It doesn't go down very often, and even when it does, it typically isn't down for more than an hour. So it's pretty reliable, all things considered, so you can't put it on that either. No, folks, it's a fact. E.T. got more popular in 2024, the most popular that it's ever been in recorded history, as far back as we have wait time data for. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's fact. It's true, and you can see it in the numbers. And now that we're all on the same page in agreeing and kind of coming to the realization that, yeah, holy cow, E.T. actually did become substantially popular in 2024, now I go ahead and tell you the reason why this happened. How did E.T. become so popular out of nowhere? Well, folks, the answer is twofold. For one, Kid Zone, the land that was directly adjacent to E.T., that was basically a ghost town for the last decade or so that it was open, got replaced by DreamWorks Land, which opened in the summer of 2024. Ultimately, this new land brought a ton more foot traffic in front of E.T., meaning that people who typically would not walk over to E.T. ever now found themselves right outside the entrance, and many of them said, hey, while I'm here, I'll go ahead and check out this ride that I wouldn't have checked out otherwise. The other part of this is that alongside this new land opening, E.T. got itself a brand new, massive sign for the ride. Previously, the ride sign was not visible from the main path going from New York to Springfield. You could easily walk that path and not even notice that E.T. was over there. You would have no idea. But now there's this massive sign. Even if you have no intention of walking over to DreamWorks Land, you now know E.T. is over there, and that's a ride that maybe people want to check out on their way throughout that part of the park. So basically, to boil it down, ET got increased foot traffic and greater advertisement with a much better sign that let people know that the ride is there to begin with. And now that ET's average wait time is just a sneeze away from Universal's presumably more popular rides, the rides that are based on big time franchises that are much newer and much more relevant and have much more advanced technology, it really is telling a pretty big story. And it isn't just that, oh, ET has more people standing in front of it, therefore it's doing better. No. In fact, it means a whole lot more than that, because guests are actively choosing to ride this attraction. It doesn't matter if they're in the area, they are still choosing to spend their time in their day, a day that they spent hundreds of dollars to be there for, mind you. They are willing and choosing on their own will to ride this ride for one reason or another, and that reason is important for Universal to understand because it means a whole dang lot. And in fact, I think that the meaning behind this is actually twofold. I think for one, that it proves that people in this park are craving more family-friendly attractions. Universal has built their name, they've built their foundation on the back of high-intensity, thrilling attractions. And that's great and all, and it certainly has put them on the map for sure. And having those attractions that Disney down the road is not going to build themselves is really helping to differentiate Universal. But now that Universal has gotten to the point where they are trying to directly compete with Disney, they're no longer fighting for the crumbs, they're no longer fighting to become the minority partner in a Disney World trip, they're trying to overtake them for many people on their Orlando trips. They need to appeal to a wider audience base. They need to appeal to a broader audience, and it's important that they are able to compete on the family-friendly front. And quite frankly, they are losing that battle right now. If you are a family with young kids going to Universal Studios Florida, there is very little for you to do. You have the two Despicable Me attractions, you have DreamWorks Land, and you have E.T., and then a couple flat rides. That's basically it. There's not much for you to do here. So it's no wonder then that E.T. saw a huge spike in attendance when, of course, a lot of the new people who came to Universal in 2024 who weren't afraid to, wait out for Epic Universe were young families because they were excited by the opening of DreamWorks Land. It actually meant, hey, there's more for my young kids to do at this park that actually appeals to them. It isn't themed to characters from the 50s. So E.T. was really able to benefit big time this year for being one of the few bastions of family-friendly attractions in this park. So what this really shows is that Universal needs to build more family-friendly attractions. If they could take that new high level of theming and of technological advancements and bring it to new family-friendly attractions like E.T., E.T. would no longer be as popular as it is because you would have newer attractions that would be gobbling up all those guests. And I'm sure there are plenty of guests who visit Orlando all the time, who visit Disney World in particular all the time, who maybe know about Universal but have never gone because it doesn't appeal to their group or their party who has a lot of young kids in it. Right? If you were to go ahead and build more family attractions, rides that everyone in the family could do together, that would go ahead and really appeal to that group and help bring them to Universal, while at the same time giving families with young kids who are already coming to the park a better experience. The other thing that I think Universal needs to take away from E.T. becoming popular again out of nowhere is that people are beginning to seek out more practical and physical experiences. The fact that E.T. can come out here as a 35-year-old ride that's based on a movie that's over 40 years old and can be more popular than your newer Scream-based rides and Fast and Furious Supercharged and Race to New York starring Jimmy Fallon says a lot about what people think about Scream-based rides right now. Ultimately, unless a Scream-based ride is really delivering something super special, think about a Forbidden Journey or Escape from Gringotts, people are not going to turn out for it. I mean, even E.T. was able to garner a higher wait time than The Simpsons. So I do think that Universal already kind of got the memo on this. I mean, the building of Velocicoaster and Hagrid's kind of sent this message already, but then they followed it up with VillainCon Minion Blast, which was the cheapest of the cheap Scream-based rides. I mean, it's honestly a complete joke. So that left me a bit perplexed, a little bit confused. Like, does Universal actually know what's going on? Do they actually know what they're doing? Was this a leftover project, or do they actually think that this is what people want to see now? But when we look at Epic Universe, there's really only one Scream-based ride, which is the Ministry of Magic ride. Every other ride, there are some rides that have screens, like Mario Kart and Monsters Unchained, but they're using them sort of as a tool and something that's going on in the background, or maybe it's being projected on your glasses, but isn't really like the main feature of the attraction. And if they could continue to follow through with this for new attractions at Universal Studios Florida, Islands of Adventure, and elsewhere, it's going to really benefit them because people really are seeking out those highly themed sets, those extremely fluid and lifelike animatronics. Those are things that people cannot get at home, that cannot, completely understand or get the sensation of through a video, a POV of the ride, whereas a screen-based ride, it's really not delivering anything that they're not already able to get at home, quite frankly, right? It doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like it's worth the hundreds of dollars they're paying to be there to experience that type of attraction. So Universal, keep that in the back of your mind. I know you're probably already executing on it anyways, but still something to keep in mind here as E.T., well, let me be the first to congratulate you, E.T. You're back, baby. And even if Spielberg was holding that over Universal's head, that he would break off all communication with them if they got rid of it, I don't think he needs to even threaten them with that anymore, because E.T.'s back, baby. It's one of the most popular rides in the park as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, so long as Universal still has an extreme lack of family-friendly attractions, and of course it continues to get good foot traffic through DreamWorks Land and this brand new sign. I think E.T. is going to remain popular for years to come, and I think that any worries or fears that we had over the last decade or so about E.T. going away, well, I think they can all be washed away. I think E.T.'s here to stay because, oh boy, it's the most popular it's been in decades, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments about E.T.'s sudden resurgence here. And if you want to hear me talk a little bit more about Universal Studios Florida's future, click the video meter screen right now where I talk about what might replace Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. And with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Peace.